is able to speak to us now, also in the central lobby. Good evening, Mr. Bowles.
Good evening.
And there is a difficulty here, isn't there? I mean, quite a lot of us, and I sort of try to remove myself as a reporter now, I would just like to know what the scale of the problem is we confront and how we're really going to tackle it. And in a way, we still don't know. We know the overall spending figures, which the Chancellor's got in mind, but what it means for various sections of the community, I've got no idea at all.
Well, look, as John just said, this is going to be something which will be discussed in weeks and months to come. And I think he's right. This is about the future of our country. It's about the next 10 years. It's about the kind of society you want to live in. I don't think, though, people know in the last year or so we've gone through a really, really difficult downturn in the economy in Britain, all around the world. We stepped in to save the banks so that we wouldn't destroy the economy. Well, we'll be more efficient, but we'll protect our public services. The choice is, if you decide instead to cut public spending massively now, if you oppose, as you said, the Tories are, the tax increases, what that will mean is either bigger debt and higher interest rates, or it's going to mean much, much tougher cuts in public services. It's a choice, Peter.
No, well, yeah, but it's a choice. It's a false choice in a way, isn't it?
Because explain to me why it's a false choice.
It's a false choice because you know perfectly well you've got to cut savagely all sorts of departments, and you're simply not saying so, and you're trying to portray the Tories as mad axemen who are running around when you know everybody knows.
You cannot justify that statement, and let me explain to you.
Then you tell me how much in order to meet those Chancellor's figures, how much will public spending have to fall in various departments? It will be cut by 10 or 15%, won't it?
Peter, you just made some big charges about what the government's going to do, and let me explain. In the case of schools, we're going to have a rise in real-term spending for schools. The BBC has a responsibility to discuss the choice which faces us. You said in your summary, the Conservatives say they will not do the national insurance rises. If they don't, they're either going to have a higher deficit or they're going to have to cut the schools and hospitals, which I'm saying we're going to preserve. The public has a right for you to set out, honestly, the choice we face. I don't think, to be honest, spending £2 billion on an inheritance tax cut for the 2,000 richest millionaires is a priority for our country. David Cameron and George Osborne says it is. You've got a responsibility to set out the choice, and then the voters will decide, not you or me.
No, indeed. But you've got a responsibility to set out the honest problems we face in public spending, and all you do is talk about what the Tories would do. It's just you're playing politics. I mean, it's like
Peter,
we've got the economy in real trouble here, and everybody knows, Mr. Bowles, that we're going to have to cut public spending in a dramatic way, and we've had no details of how you're going to do it.
You are being very, very political in the way in which you are asking me these questions. Let me explain. I've just said to you, in the case of schools, we will make efficiency savings cuts in back office. But listen, politics is about choices. The voters will have to decide would they rather stay with the government, or will they in the coming months vote for a Conservative Party which won't do the tax rises, which will instead cut inheritance tax, wants to cut public spending now, and says, for example, to school leavers all around the country listening to your programme, age 16, that while the government will guarantee you a school, college or apprenticeship place age 16, they will not. Now, you may not like me setting out that choice. You may call me party political. I think we should be more honest with the electorate about the choices which are faced. And I think you, as a presenter, have got a bit more responsibility than you're showing in this interview to set out those choices.
Believe it or not, I am indeed attempting to be responsible. I mean, all right, I'll be responsible. It was you were in the Treasury advising Gordon Brown in the years when we were promised no return to boom and bust as well, weren't you?
Look, we've just gone through the biggest global downturn, which has affected America, France, Germany, Japan, Italy. Things have been transformed for many families, and it's important we debate the choices which face the country in the future.
Okay, but I mean, you quote these figures. We now have a public sector deficit of 178 billion this year. We've got 6 consecutive quarters of the economy shrinking. We've got public sector net debt forecast to rise to 3/4 of GDP in 3 years' time. Now, that sounds to me like bust.
Bust.
Well, doesn't it you?
Of course it's not bust, Peter. And the idea that you would talk our country down in that way on national radio really surprises me. That's not what the rating agencies say. It's not what the IMF says. And I'm very surprised that you're saying that on the BBC. It's complete and utter nonsense. There is a choice to be faced. Should we cut the deficit faster next year? Should we cut the deficit faster this year by cutting spending now? I think that would be the wrong thing to do. George Osborne says that's the right thing to do. I think it would lead to more unemployment. He doesn't. You have a responsibility to set out these choices on your programme rather than to say to me highly polemic things, which I don't think you can substantiate for a moment.
Ed Bowles, thank you very much indeed. That's Ed Bowles, the Children's Secretary. It's 6:15.
And here's the rest of the news.
Sorry, quite forgot where I was for a
It's
second.
right, it's quite understandable.